Live now to the New South Wales Planning Minister, Liberal MP for Lane Cove, Anthony Roberts. Anthony, you're facing a Climate 200-backed teal tonight. Is this one of the closest contests you've faced in the 2 decades you've represented that seat?
Look, I've always had independents that attract about 14% of the vote in Lane Cove. It's going to be a tight contest, but we won't know until, of course, the polls come in.
You had a high-profile supporter today visit you on the hustings, Gina Rinehart. Is she a supporter?
Well, Gina's an old family friend, and Gina got in her car and delivered to booth workers sandwiches and pies. And I've got to say, not just to Liberal booth workers, but in the rain, she was out there delivering to all booth workers. And everyone knows that some of the toughest jobs are standing on a booth all day, particularly when the weather's miserable.
Anthony Roberts, Andrew Clennell here. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Talking to people, they reckon you've got a really tough struggle on your hands tonight. Is that what your understanding is, that it's going to be a very tight contest in Lane Cove for you?
Well, can I say, Andrew, that I was out today and I was overwhelmed by the amount of support, local support, from people coming up to me directly saying thank you for various things that I've been able to assist them with, but particularly what the state government's done by way of infrastructure, local infrastructure around schools, hospitals, roads and sporting facilities.
Just on that, has the government done enough to sell what is an amazing infrastructure record, or have they been distracted by attempting to retain seats on the North Shore of Sydney?
Look, I've got to say it's all about balance, and we've been able to balance a strong economy together with ensuring that we're reaching our climate targets.
Natalie Wood.
Yeah, Robbo, Natalie here. Nice to see you. Can I just ask about...
And thanks, Natalie, for my fairy upgrades.
Yeah, and your flower man. We saved the flower man together, selling flowers.
We saved the flower man.
I was out on one of your booths today, Robbo, and I've got to say, with the so-called independent teals, one of the tactics that they seem to be employing was you have to number every box, you should number every box, your vote won't count unless you count every box. And it seems to me, I just wanted to know what your take was on that, together with their mail-outs about being critical and negative of candidates for a so-called party or candidates of integrity, what your take was on that.
Well, they've certainly run a very negative campaign, and I've got to say, from on-the-ground experience, that's backfired somewhat. Let's be in no doubt that these candidates, and we talk about who pre-selects Liberal candidates, well, the party does. You might have 200 or 300 people. Can I tell you, these candidates have been chosen, you look at their websites, by 1 or 2 individuals. So again, this is a party that we're dealing with. They should be basically structured, officially as a party, and they should be basically following, the rules of a party. It's a coordinated campaign, and we see this swarming that occurs, where the same people move from place to place around different seats. They are a party. I mean, it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it walks like a duck. It's a duck.
But it's also misleading, isn't it, to say to voters, your vote's not going to count unless you... I mean, for independents who pride themselves on integrity, scaring voters into saying your vote won't count unless you number every box, which is just plainly untrue, I found to be quite underhand and desperate, didn't you?
Well, it is untrue, and particularly not having any other policies except platitudes. Though they did have one policy, and that was to get rid of me, and they announced that today, and that was really good that they at least had one policy in the field. But we certainly had a number of complaints by the public that they were being misled into how to vote by these individuals. And I've got to say, most of these individuals weren't from my electorate. They were coming in, they were blow-ins from interstate, blow-ins from outside of Lane Cove, and we've caught them out.
Joel Fitzgibbon.
Anthony, Joel Fitzgibbon. We've just had Simon Holmes at court.
G'day, Joel.
G'day. Good luck tonight, trying to tell us that the Teals aren't a political party. But you must be very thankful tonight for the restrictions on campaign donations in New South Wales now. Otherwise, I suspect your opponent would be spending 3 times more, or 10 times more possibly, than she did throughout the course of the campaign. And in a rather extraordinary go, Simon Holmes, the court, just sent Josh Frydenberg a very clear message that if he sticks his head up in Kooyong again, they'll spend twice as much there as they did last time. And can I remind you, last time they spent $2 million.
Well,
Actually, more
Joel,
than that.
can I tell you, they would have spent more than $2 million to buy the seat of Lane Cove, as we saw in the federal election. We had individuals, wealthy individuals, not all of us are beneficiaries of family trusts. And this is the issue that came out today in the electorate, and that is the cost of living is critical for people. We're seeing mortgage increases, the cost of food increasing right across the board, fuel and so forth. To some of these individuals, an increase in electricity by tenfold, it doesn't matter. They own their own home. They don't care if young people can't get into their own home. And that's where I think there needs to be a further review of funding in New South Wales, and I think more broadly, insofar as I've always been a great advocate, as has Dom Perrottet, of public funding. Yeah, let's make this open and transparent. You can't allow billionaires to buy seats and buy democracy.
Yeah, I think that's right. We're getting very close to the American-style democracy, in which you can't run for office unless you can be funded very, very handsomely.
I would hate to move to an American model where it's just about how much money you have to run a campaign. As you know, congressmen in the US are elected, and the day after, they're out fundraising again.
Anthony Roberts, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.